Jaylen Brown, it's not so much that he's underrated, it's that he's just not liked because of his quote, "I am better than you" attitude. He knows it. It's the same reason he is not as marketable as he should be. That's what an NBA source just sent me. I don't know that to be the case. I like Jaylen Brown. I know a lot of people that like Jaylen Brown. You heard my comments there months ago, so obviously you were waiting for the moment where ultimately I would be sitting down to the man I was talking about. Well, he's in the house. Jaylen Brown, the reigning NBA Finals MVP. He is right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Let's roll. Welcome to the special edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do at the very least 3 times a week over the digital airways with YouTube and, of course, iHeartRadio. It is my honor and privilege to have the man sitting next to me right now. He is the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals last year, the MVP of the NBA Finals, a star for the reigning defending NBA champion Boston Celtics, the one and only Jaylen Brown. What's up, big time? How are you, man?
Yes, sir. What's going on?
You've had a busy morning, my brother. I mean, in this city, they honored the great Bill Russell, if I remember correctly, with his bridge and all of that stuff, and you spoke at that. Talk about that for a second. What was this morning like for you?
This morning was great. Today, they changed the name of a bridge that's been there for hundreds of years. They named it after the great Bill Russell. And I thought it was very fitting. I got to commence the communion with the mayor, the governor, and the rest of the city of Boston, just to honor his legacy and what he stood for, you know, as a man, and then his character, which at that time, you know, kind of just transcended, you know, the reality of what was going on. So today has been a great day.
Right.
Now we're here.
That's right. Yes, we are.
With you. And I know you see the shirt.
That's right. State your source. State your source.
Yes.
Oh, we're going to get into all of that.
For sure.
No question.
And honestly, I wore this shirt, because, like, this is where I wanted to start the conversation.
Okay.
Get into it. And to be honest, you know.
Pull the mic closer to you, so I want to make sure the audience hears you. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I think it's deeper than rap. I think it's bigger than both you and I. Like, obviously, your credentials are through the roof, you know, covering AI to First Take being the #1 show, and now taking the world by storm with your new podcast. So I wore this shirt, but I honestly, I know just because of your credentials that you're never going to reveal your sources, because you abide by something called journalistic integrity.
Right.
But hear me out.
Sure.
A couple months back, on your platform, you recited an unnamed source who I feel like attacked my character.
That was what we played on a cold open, by the way. Sure.
And one, I didn't really get a chance to defend myself, and two, you know, the damage kind of already is done. And I think journalistic integrity goes 2 ways.
Yes, sir.
So for me, I think a lot of people were upset, and as was I, because I understand journalistic integrity, and I understand how that works, but I also understand the idea of normal integrity as well, and I also want to maintain and protect that.
Sure.
So to start off, I wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
And profession aside, you know, as a #1 reporter with the biggest platform,
yes, sir,
in the world, I hold you accountable.
Please
do. Is there ever any dissension from what you report on as a man, what you report on as a reporter, and then what you stand for as an individual? Like, when you go home, is there ever any dissension in the decisions that you make?
Well, for the most part, no, because I find myself to be humane and fair. But in the same breath, when we take this example, let me use this example that you're talking about, with what I said was text to me about you. And by the way, others had said it as well. I wasn't talking about how I feel. You and I have been cool for years. You've always been good to me. What I was trying to say was, this brother is great. He's great on the basketball court. He's great off the basketball court. He's an individual of very high integrity, highly educated, whom most people that you encounter considers you nothing short of brilliant, and yet these opportunities that clearly you are deserving of and should be afforded to you was not. And so when I brought that up, I literally get a text in the middle of the show. And immediately after the show, I got 3 separate phone calls. And they were like, yo, this guy is not liked by some of the powers that be because he's smart, because he's outspoken, because he's principled and he's defiant and he's not easily manipulated. These are things that are costing him. I didn't look at it as something that was smearing your character. I looked at it as individuals basically pointing out that you're not liked, and I completely understand why folks who are in positions of power and decision-making positions, you wouldn't like somebody because they usually don't like folks that are principled.
I agree. And I wasn't holding
Right.
you accountable for anything that you said.
Right.
It was that your platform
Okay.
is so large. You have the #1 platform in the world. First Take, your podcast now. What I was asking was, is there a dissension about what you report on, and also how you carry yourself as an individual and as a man? Like, how do you differentiate the two? But to be honest, I'm gonna come clean.
Sure.
Like, I wanted to have this conversation, but honestly, I couldn't wait to address this unnamed source.
Right.
I know they probably will be watching this because people like that are always watching. And I wanted to let them know that I had a great summer. Like, just as simple as that. Like, I traveled the world. I went to Umrah. I won 2 MVPs. I, launched Black Wall Street in Oakland and made a music video. I had a blast.
Right.
So I wanted to let them know that I had a great summer. I really wanted to address them directly, but I feel like since this all kind of happened on your platform, I want to send a message to you, to them.
Right.
Because you only the person that knows who the source is. And I basically wanted to say to them that I think it's cowardice. I think historically, unnamed sources have attacked some of our greats. And we are not responsible for what they lack in design. Frankly, they can call all their buddies, they pals and friends from all over the world, all the unnamed sources, and they can shove it where they got it from. Whether they think I'm marketable or not, I walk with God. I'm gonna be me and stand with my community in this life and the next, and that's my journalistic integrity.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
I wanted to get that off my chest.
Sure.
And now we can start the interview.
You can get it all off your chest. I'm not going away because I got to tell you something. I don't understand why somebody saying what others may feel about you to hold you back, and they know that you've done nothing to deserve it. I don't understand how that's cowardice for them to talk about what somebody else is feeling. Like, for example, I'm looking at you and I think about Bill Russell, how principled he was. I think about Muhammad Ali, how principled he was. I think about Kirk Flood, who was the father, of free agency. When you think about what he did in Major League Baseball, I think about Jackie Robinson integrating the sport of baseball. I think about so many highly educated, highly accomplished, highly principled individual. The word likability is not something that you would attach to them when it came to Madison Avenue and marketability and promotion. So somebody saying this guy is not liked because of that reason, that's not them insulting you. That's not them calling you out. It's them saying the world that we're living in, you're not somebody that's easy to control. You're somebody, you stand on your own and you're your own man.
For sure.
What's the problem with that?
It's a balance, because it's one, you can critique someone's performance.
Okay.
But then also if you're attacking their character. Like, they didn't just say that I wasn't liked. They said I wasn't marketable. They said I was arrogant. I carried myself with a certain demeanor. And that line gets crossed between critiquing someone's performance, not liking them for whatever reason, and then attacking someone's character. I think journalistic integrity requires it to go both ways. I never had a chance to respond or defend myself. One, because they're never going to reveal themselves. And two, the damage is already done. So when I'm speaking to is the unnamed sources.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can, like if you speak on it and you say something because we have a relationship,
Right.
at least I can look at you and we can go back and forth about what it is that we believe or what it is that we don't believe. An unnamed source, like what is that? You know, and to be honest, it reminds me, I think it has familiarity with when I was entering the draft.
2016 third overall pick.
What was said? Do you remember?
I do not. I'm sorry.
During when I got drafted, they said that I was too smart. A source, an unnamed source,
Okay.
said that I was too smart to be a basketball player or something like that, and that would hurt my draft stock because it was a form of questioning authority. And this source, this unnamed source, who now have said
Back in 2016.
back in 2016, it was a very popular, you know, subject at the time, and this source kind of reminds me of that as well, you know. And I actually figured out who that source was.
Okay.
But I know because of your credentials, your background, your journalistic integrity, we never gonna figure out who that one is.
You're not.
Yeah.
You're not. You're not. I'm not going to let that happen because I protect my sources. But I will tell you this. There's also a line that I wouldn't allow to be crossed. Like if somebody were to call up and to get into your personal business and try to attack you, I'd have never said anything like that. I'd never let something like that come out of my mouth over the airwaves or anything like that. But somebody pointing to this individual that went to Cal, this individual, I want to read something here. At the time that last year, when you agreed to your new contract extension, 5 years, over $300 million. It says here, you're the youngest person to ever hold a lecture at Harvard, became an MIT Media Lab fellow, was offered a NASA internship, became the NBA Players Association youngest vice president at the age of 22 years of age, and when your historic contract was finalized, you were in a robotics session at MIT. Is that true?
That's true.
So with all of that being true, I look at somebody like yourself and I don't consider it a negative because the words that emanated out of somebody's mouth about what was being felt about you forced us to look into your background even more and ask the question, what the hell is wrong with him?
Absolutely.
Look at his intellect.
Absolutely.
Look at the fact that he doesn't get in trouble. Look at the fact that he's a great player on both ends of the floor. It forced us all to look at you, and then it had me screaming, why the hell isn't he all NBA? Why the hell isn't he on the Olympic team? You see what I'm saying?
It might have been misconstrued.
Right.
It may be in my tone, but my issue was never with you. It was with the unnamed source.
But I knew that
I think
because your family told me.
I do hold you accountable
Sure.
for your platform. I think we should hold each other accountable.
Right.
You have the biggest and largest platform. I feel like one of the biggest reporters in the U.S. So I think that should have some dissension at the end of the day.
I have no problem with that.
Who I always wanted to address, who I couldn't wait, was this source.
Right. Right.
So that's why I wanted to iterate
Right.
to you, to reiterate back to them that whether they think I'm marketable or not, whether they think I'm liked or not, it's not stopping nothing. They can do their worst. And I'm going to stand with my community and I'm going to be myself in this life and the next. And that's what I stand on.
And who are you, Jaylen Brown? You describe yourself. Who are you?
I am a man living through his purpose. You know, I think God has an extreme influence on my life. So as he says, I go. I am extremely passionate about like the things that I care about and the things that I love, and I'm willing to sacrifice anything for my family, my community, or society to be in a better place.
I watched you during the NBA playoffs, and I love me some Jason Tatum. You know, everybody knows I love me some Jason Tatum. You were absolutely sensational during the playoffs. You closed the deal against Indiana. You won the NBA Finals. You're the NBA Finals MVP. How did you feel at that moment? I know it must be phenomenal to win a championship. But with you, there always seems to be something more, something deeper, an emotion I'm talking about that comes with it. What was that for you?
I think it was shock. honestly, I was shocked. Not
When you
that
won the MVP
I was
or when
shocked
you won?
when both.
Okay.
Well, you get so locked in on the journey that you sometimes like black everything out. Like, your focus becomes so adamant that nothing else exists besides what is in front of you and the job that needs to be done. So honestly, when we won, it felt like we had another series to play. It felt like it was another game coming up, and my mind was like instantly going into preparation mode. So it was having a hard time, like settling on the fact that, nah, this is it. There's no more games. This is it. And we did it.
When you won the championship and they said that you were the most valuable player for the finals, you looked shocked. I remember that look on your face. You didn't expect that at all. Is that a fair assessment?
I think I deserved it,
Right.
but I did not expect it for reasons that we've been talking about earlier in this conversation. I feel like because of who I am and because of how I approach things and what I stand for, it intimidates people and rugs people the wrong way. And I think good, because there's a lot of organizations, there's a lot of things that need to be changed. We see the results from our former players, we see the results in our community, and nobody thinks that we need to change some of these cycles. So you should feel a certain type of way when I walk into the room. And that has caused me to miss out on opportunities, awards, and things like that, popularity. And I would be lying if I said it didn't bother me earlier in my career, but I got to the point where I fully embraced it. I walk into my masculinity. I know exactly who I am, and I'm comfortable with that. Whether it goes left or right, whatever direction it goes for me, my platform, whether something shakes tomorrow, like I can live with the fact that I'm gonna stand on my principles and my values to the end.
You realize that everything you just said validated everything that I pointed out, right? You understand that, right?
I do.
You understand that, right?
Did you hear what I said, though?
Yes, I did. About accountability on my
Yes,
part as well,
that's
because
what
of the
I'm saying.
platform that I have,
Yes.
et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
No question about it. And by the way, I'm one of those guys. Listen, if you watch me on my day job on First Take, you'll see me half the time with my head down. You know why? Because I get text messages every segment. Every single segment of every single show, there's somebody that's texting me about some players, people who pretend to hate me and never talk to me, but they're the ones texting me, coaches, executives, owners, agents, everybody. It's always been that way. So getting a perspective, it's a challenge at times to know what the line is and what it isn't. That's why I've never changed my number in 20-something years, because I want to make sure everybody can reach me, and there's no excuse for say we couldn't reach Stephen A. We couldn't reach out and touch him. That's what I try to do.
That's very true. And you are here now in Boston.
That's right.
Allowing me to be on your platform to respond. And I think that in itself is a great notion, because like a great reporter gets both sides.
Right.
So I feel like your unnamed source created this whole hoopla where people felt some type of way, as did I. People responded. But now it's the opportunity to clear the air and talk about, things that matter, but also address it and then move on.
Right. I don't, but the thing about it is that I don't think it was something that was created. I think you recognize the fact that because of who you are and what you stand on,
For sure.
that there are certain people in positions of power that want to hold you back, because when they want to do business, they want to do business with people that they can control. So my next question to you is, considering who you are and who you know yourself to be, and now that you're a champion, is it consistent, or does your principled position elevate even more, because now you got the credentials to back up that you indeed are somebody who deserves everything you want?
Absolutely. And yeah, it makes you stand on it even more. Like I'm comfortable with it. Like I've passed on millions of dollars worth of endorsements, not because I don't think that the money is of value, but I more so think for the next generation and helping athletes kind of understand their value to a different level. Right now, we kind of look at this exchange between endorsement, between athletes gets paid an X amount of dollars. They have no creative control, no input, no say-so over, the direction of how they want things to go. They don't own their IPs, nothing of the sort. And as a Players Association rep, I get those phone calls when I'm talking to older players and their frustration about how working with and dealing with these major corporations, how it's difficult. And I think more people should hear those stories. Because if I was a young player and I heard this veteran that went through what I want to go through, and this person say they might have done something different, you know, that might affect my perspective. So I'm always listening. I'm always thinking about how can I pour into the next generation? Because how we started this conversation was with Bill Russell, and playing for this organization and admiring somebody like that. I feel like I have no choice but to walk in their light.
So when you give advice to some of these young cats, telling you some of the things that they're enduring, knowing what you've already been through, what do you tell them?
I tell them to think for themselves. Most importantly, our influence doesn't just get determined by being an athlete or what I say, an entertainer. Like, I think our influence goes beyond. Some of these dudes got God-given ability, jumping over cars, running fast as lightning. Like, I think that influence goes beyond just entertainment. And some people may disagree on that, and we're going to have to disagree to the end. I think we should challenge ourselves, our minds, because we have the potential and the capabilities to be, you know, leaders, not just on the court or on the field or in the music industry, but in society as well. The influence is there. The ability, the talent is given from God. And it's just up to us if we realize it, understand it, and access it. And that's what I like to explain to the younger generation, is that, you know, you're not just a basketball player. It's the platform that you might have, but you got people in the community that look up to you, listen to you. Don't listen to the ones that say you should just focus on ball or don't care about nothing or nobody else. Nah, it's okay to stand for your community. It's okay to be a representative of your family, to not just be about the money, the cars, the girls, etc., but also be about building and bridging and creating things for the next generation and creating a legacy rather than just giving back what they just gave to you.
But what about being smart and strategic too? How important is that, and how often do you give them that level of advice?
Oh, that's everything. That's the emphasis of the advice, is to have stratagem. Don't go out there aimlessly saying things and doing things that you don't have the capability to back up. If you look at how I've approached things, it's been with nothing but strategy. You know, how I've built my brand, how I've approached the work I do in the community is all about, you know, one, making the world a better place, but two, also being able to be in a position of influence to affect the next gen.
I asked that question because I'm thinking about exchange. I'm thinking about you talking about recreating a Black Wall Street. I'm thinking about you and what you've done or trying to do in Oakland and how you got your man Jason Kidd helping you with that. I'm thinking about endorsement deals that you supposedly turned down in excess of $50 million, if I remember correctly. I think about reading that. I'm looking at you having turned down over $50 million in endorsement deals to launch your own performance brand, 741. These sneakers right here.
Yes, sir.
You understand? I'm thinking about all of that. And before I go to commercial, I have to ask you, do you realize, damn it, everybody ain't you? Like you really act like you think you normal. You understand you're not normal. I mean, most dudes can't play like you. And as smart and as intelligent as we want to feel we are, and a lot of us are, a lot of people look at you and say, next level, you next level. It ain't typical. Do you take that into account when you give that advice?
Absolutely, but I think I was raised this way. I was trained this way. I was created for this. I was like this was like, I wasn't born with this ability. I worked for it. It was prepped. So like my family, my household, all about education. I grew up in a family. My grandmother, who is not here with us today, but she was an educator, a social worker, a woman in the community. I watched her give herself to her community, and I watched her community put her on a pedestal for the amount of energy that she put into each and every person that came into her office. So that's where I got my sense of community. Also, all her sisters, my mom, teachers. My mom teaches at Boston University. So I've had the teaching, the preparation, the upbringing, and also the realization of like who I am to be able to cultivate what you see now. I think the same could be done for kids in the next generation. I don't think I'm special. I do think that others feel the same way I do about certain things. They just don't know about how to go about it, or they don't know how to articulate it because they weren't prepped. They didn't come from that household. They didn't come into that environment, but I did. So that's why that responsibility is different, especially from the one above. But I don't think it's inept for them to get to that point. And that's why my work is always about giving back to the next gen, because I think that with the right environment, you will see more Jaylen Browns. And that's my goal, is to build an army.
The one and only Jaylen Brown, reigning NBA Finals MVP, right here with Stephen A. Back with more in a minute. I want to take a second to let you all know that with the baseball playoffs in full swing, NFL games filling up my Sundays, and the NBA season right around the corner, I could not be more excited. But what is even more exciting is that PrizePicks wants to help you cash in on every single one of those big-time games. You see, PrizePicks is a daily fantasy app where you can pick 2 or more of your favorite players, and then you simply select more or less on their projected stats for the game. Pick one player's rushing yards, another's rebounds, and even another's total hits, all in the same entry. I make my picks and submit early, all in less than 60 seconds. Then I sit back, enjoy the games, and watch all that big-time money roll in. And get this, sign up with code SAS, and PrizePicks will give you $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't need to win your lineup to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. All you have to do is play a $5 lineup on PrizePicks, and you'll get $50 instantly. Pick more, pick less. It's really, really that easy. What does the future hold for business? Ask 9 experts and you'll get 10 answers. It's a bull market. It's a bear market. Rates will rise or fall. Inflation's up or down. Can someone invent a crystal ball, please? Until then, over 38,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth, giving you the visibility and control you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. When you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're spending less time looking backwards and more time on what's next. Whether your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities. Download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning for free at netsuite.com/SAS. That's netsuite.com/SAS. I'll say it one more time. netsuite.com/SAS. Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airways of YouTube and, of course, iHeartRadio. Back again with the champion himself, the one and only Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. So you've said all of that, and I have to ask you, revisit your emotions for me when you learned, A, you were not going to be one of the 12 selected on Team USA, and B, despite the fact that 3 of your teammates was on the team. 2 of them who spend 82 games a year deferring to you, and one, obviously, Jason Tatum, who came here a year later, but is the 3-time first-team All-NBA over the last 3 years. What was that like for you?
The emotions?
Yeah.
It was a lot, honestly. And a lot of the stuff that we just talked about, I feel like delineates into the same conversation. But I'll say this. In 2028, if I have to sign to Nike to increase my likelihood to play USA basketball, I'll pass.
Why?
One, I think that the essence, like you see it in our grassroots. Kids, instead of enjoying the essence of basketball, are like forced to pick a side.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at our global game, and Europe is closing the gap.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that we should focus more on our development of our youth and grassroots. And I think I think shoe companies should have less control over the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, and I was one of those kids. I was a top player, number one. Actually, you came to one of my high school games. Yeah, I remember
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I was a top player in high school, and and it was so much to deal with. Nike, Adidas, like going to an Adidas school, going to a Nike school, um, and the kids should just be focusing on development. And I think this has a direct correlation to what we see at the highest level, even in Olympic play. Like, politics is not synonymous with basketball. As my role as the vice president, I sit in these conversations with now who is Andre, who's our executive director,
Andre Iguodala.
and
Yep.
Adam Silver,
Okay.
who is the commissioner for the NBA, who
Mm-hmm.
goes back and forth about what we need and what's best for our game. So I know what corporate sponsors, what their what their pedigree is like. I know what the relationship is like. I know how those conversations go on. Anybody who thinks sports, politics are not cohesive,
They operate in sync with one another.
and
Absolutely.
say, yeah, you lying to yourself. So I'll say it again, because I know it'll be a quote in 2028. If I have to sign the Nike to increase my likelihood of playing USA basketball, I'll pass.
Why do you mention Nike?
Because they're the lead sponsor for the USA basketball team.
But I'm also asking you that question is because you were once with Nike, correct?
No,
You were never with Nike.
no, Adidas.
Okay, you were with Adidas. All right. And people thought you should go with Nike, and that was not something that ended up working out. What happened with that?
I mean, no need to get into the. I don't have a problem with the industry. Well, I do. I'm lying. I do.
Okay, I was going to say, go ahead, Jaylen.
I do.
All right, go ahead.
I think the industry definitely needs some new energy, some new creativity, and some new options. I think the way, the shoe companies go about issuing deals and illustrating people's value in terms of IP, in terms of creative control, in terms of like how involved you are in the process, I think it needs to change. I listen to the voices of our older generation. I know players that I can name, superstars, that would tell you right now, man, they frustrated as hell. Their stuff can't come out when they want it to come out. They have no input or control. They was forced to renegotiate certain percentages that they think they should have more value. And they wish it was other options. So, people like to use the word disruptor for me, and I really don't like it.
You don't like the word disruptive? For yourself?
It comes with the territory.
Okay.
But no, because everything that I've tried to be a part of, everything that I am a part of, my thought process has always been solution-based. Listening, being a representing our 450, listening to what players are saying behind closed doors.
But some people would say solutions can be disruptive from time to time, depending on who you're dealing with.
Yes, no, you're correct. I just don't like to be called just like singularly
Got it.
a disruptor. I know it comes with it. But my thought process has always been solution-based, trying to create a solution for what I feel like in society, from an athlete perspective, is viewed as a problem. And that doesn't just stop at the shoe industry. The agency model, we can go more in detail. Yeah. Actually, I could talk to you all day about this stuff. We have a lot of meetings with the union, which I'm happy to be involved with. I've been since I was 21 years old. So I've been 7 years now that I've been participating in the development.
You turn 28 in a couple of days.
Yeah, man, this is my last 2 years in my 20s.
Right, that's right.
That sounds terrible.
It ain't terrible.
I know, but I've been a part of it for 7 years, and I've learned, the ins and outs of the operational aspect of the league, the marketing approach. I learned about, how the decision-making process goes, who has responsibilities, who doesn't, and how, things are looked at and viewed. So, I think things need to change.
I'm going to read a quote that you gave. But
Yes,
before
sir.
I read the quote that you gave, you were responding to Nike founder Phil Knight. This is in 2022, who had criticized Kyrie Irving for his quote unquote slow motion non apology after sharing an anti Semitic documentary on social media. That's for Kyrie to discuss. We don't have to revisit that at all because there's a lot of hits that he took during COVID, from myself included, that he did not deserve. So I want to make sure I'm on the record stating that. And he and I'll have a conversation at some point. But I remember when you were communicating about Nike in response to their reaction to Kyrie. And your exact words was, since when does Nike care about ethics? Now, you've never been under Nike. Like you said, you were under Adidas. Things didn't work out, but you didn't hesitate to say what you said about them.
For sure.
A, why? And B, do you not see how that can alienate a lot of businesses from wanting to do business
Absolutely.
with you and your willingness to speak out?
I think the ones who haven't been behaving ethically, for sure. I think the ones who do, I think it actually would attract them. But as a major corporation who's huge, has a lot of under their umbrella, that always hasn't maintained the ethical approach to, the decision making that they have, especially on the behalf of their signees. So being able to see that, because like a lot of the things you stand for are public, a lot of the things you represent are public, and the messaging that you put out is public. It don't take nothing but a bit of time to see what the company represents. And I think that is the part where I challenge them to do better.
Black Wall Street, here in Boston, on the day that you signed your 5-year, $300+ million deal, which, by the way, nobody refuted. We all knew you deserved it, and that was before you won the daggone championship, okay? With all of that being said, talk to everybody about what you're trying to accomplish and what that specific project is all about and what it means to you.
It's all about my commitment, my platform to the community. I've been here in Boston for 9 years now. And one of the things that I noticed is that the racial wealth gap is volatile. Basically,
Is it true that I heard that wealth gap, if you look at the median household for black families, it's like $8 compared to triple digits for white families in America? Is that true? They said something along those lines. Is that the numbers that you have?
The Boston Globe reported that in like 2016. And that's not probably where it is now. But
Right.
Boston is still top 5 in wealth disparity. And they've been that for the last 20, 40, 50 years.
Right.
Long time. And that issues from systemic inequality that has just, digressed through time. So the Boston Exchange, which is a spin-off version of what kind of Black Wall Street, and also
1920s, Tulsa, Oklahoma, yeah.
And also the Rainbow Coalition,
Of course.
that took place in Chicago from Fred Hampton. Like maybe I pulled from those two, but be able to use a platform through sports to bring people together and throw everything that we got at trying to improve that wealth disparity.
You also have a foundation called JUICE. It's the number 7, UICE, but it's pronounced JUICE. Talk about that for a second, what its mission is.
Another foundation, that is more, so Boston Exchange is wealth disparity. The JUICE Foundation, they deal with a lot of the programming, which is through education, which is like the Bridge program, who people in Boston are familiar with, is where when I signed my deal, I had a bunch of kids around me that were behind me. Those were my students.
Okay.
In my Bridge program. I designed a curriculum over at MIT.
Okay.
Pretty much every summer, and it is science, it's STEAM based, but it includes space exploration, it includes artificial intelligence, synthetic biology, etc. And I take kids from Dorchester, from Roxbury, from underrepresented communities, and build the bridge for them at MIT. I think that's important because they get the exposure from these STEM and STEAM-based curriculums that can also help shape their social mobility. So just by putting in this environment, allowing them to get internships, allowing them to sign up for different programs, allowing them to be in a space where they see themselves being successful instead of seeing themselves being in a place that, you know, it's not too many opportunities. I think that's what the Bridge program is about, and that's what Juice Foundation has funded. And are in our 4th annual year this summer, and you know, we track the kids and push the kids to sign up for internships so they can just build their resumes and their experience. And you know, I design the curriculum, but hopefully it builds for them to have a more impacted and a different kind of trajectory than what systemically is laid out for them.
You said you designed the curriculum?
Yes, sir.
All right. What is explain? What does that mean exactly? You come up with the classes. You come up with the courses. What exactly does that mean?
All of the above. Come up with the courses. Also, you know, when you bring kids into a counter space like MIT, especially coming from underrepresented community, you want to make sure that they're comfortable. So, you know, you want it to come off pretentious. You don't want it to come off as like above or anything like that. So when you build the curriculum, you also need to include things to level the space. So we include leadership, you know, seminars, which I lead. We include, you know, some yoga, we include some activities just to make the kids feel integrated into the space. And we build that on top of like interviewing the professors, MIT, shout out to MIT, shout out to Dava Newman. She's the chairman for the MIT Media Lab. She'll send suggestions of professors who we think that would be great. First, we have conversations with them about what they want to communicate and how they want to communicate it. And kids don't want to be sitting there listening to no lectures. You got to be interactive. It got to be action-based learning. So we combine all of those things together and come up with a 4-day camp or so. And some kids they're thinking they're about to, you know, they're coming to Jaylen Brown. They think they're about to play some basketball. But now we got them in class at MIT.
How receptive is the business community to your agenda, your objective, and how much do they facilitate you being able to accomplish what you're aiming to accomplish?
The business community, honestly, I think it should and could be more, but I think people are kind of waiting to see kind of what is the next leading steps. But I thought more people would be reaching out. I think they post about it on social media and they talk about it, you know, online, but people don't always put, you know, their resources into something. But then they complain as well when there's something missing. So we're gonna keep moving. We're gonna keep pushing forward, and I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic that you know the right people are gonna align as well.
Now you know why I asked you the question, because look at all you're doing. Look at what your objective is. Who wouldn't want to support that? Nevertheless, you just articulated it's a challenge.
Yes.
Could it be that it's a challenge because of what you stand on and how principled you are, and you're not somebody that, dare we say, is going to play the game that corporate America might want you to play? You ever thought about that?
I hate the term "play the game."
I know.
What
a lot of us do.
It's 2024.
Right.
Like, it's a different game
than
it was in 1985.
Okay.
Similar people that are moving in pieces, but the game is different. I think that this generation has the prowess to be able to do a lot of different things that maybe the generation that came before wasn't able to, through the power of social media, through the lens of like just the media in general. Multiple people are starting platforms, multiple people are entrepreneurs and working for themselves. So before, like, the social norms of like corporate America is like, man, you gotta dress a certain way, speak a certain way, be a certain way. You got to have a college degree to be successful. This is what I view as playing the game. 2024, I think that still exists, but we've seen that game change where now you could be yourself. You could dress casually or however you feel comfortable. You could have red, blue, yellow, green hair, and people will still accept you if you're good at your craft.
Right.
I think that game is changing. Maybe it hasn't changed completely yet. But that's what I want people to recognize as well, that the game is changing. It is not the same. And it's our responsibility that the next 20 to 50 years looks different than it looks right now.
I'll play devil's advocate with you. You started off this interview interviewing me, asking me questions, right? And we were talking about me in this industry. Let me tell you what the dilemma that I have, and you tell me how you feel about it. I don't want to dress in a damn suit every day. I like my suits. I really do. I like to dress sharp, But I don't feel like dressing like that every day. Coming on the air, knowing that hundreds of thousands are watching live, that millions, in my case billions, might be watching on video, on social media and video over the course of a calendar year, et cetera, et cetera. I know that there's a responsibility that comes with that because I'm saying, yeah, I can do it now. I can show up in a warm-up suit on the air right now. I can do a lot of things that the typical person can't do. But if I'm setting that kind of example, I can get away with it. But most people on the come up can't. And so I have a responsibility to allow them to see what, quote unquote, the words we hate, the game that has to be played. You're trying to show them that. You are somebody that's averse to that kind of thinking. I guess what I'm asking is, with all that you're accomplishing, I'm not talking about you just as an individual, as a player, but with what you're doing in the community and the help that you need from those outside to help you, do you feel compelled at all to capitulate in any way to serve the greater good?
Do I?
Yes.
No. But no, I hear what you're saying, right. and I understand it. Like I said, the game hasn't completely changed, and people have to do what needs to be done. And there's nothing but respecting that. But I feel like I'm in a position where I don't have to do that. And just through my influence and through who I am, that I could represent and create a paradigm shift as well for athletes to think differently, to understand their value in a different way. And if not, from an athlete perspective, even expand it to society as well. But what I represent and what I speak for is the next generation of athletes. And I know what we go through as well is what people in corporate America are going through at the same time. So I understand it. Like your example was you wearing a suit on TV for First Take, and that's, considered industry standard. Like nothing is wrong with that. I think that I was just using that as an analogy to how, how someone dresses is attached to a certain level of professionalism, at least in the past. And it is still, but in a lot of times people showing up to meetings that I be at, and they be in stuff like this.
Right. Yeah. I feel you. Times Magazine article titled, "How Jaylen Brown Became the NBA's Most Interesting Player." Colin Kaepernick said this about you. Quote, "More than an NBA star, he's a force for justice and change and a beacon of hope." That's what Colin Kaepernick once said about you. And we know what stance he took. Do you look at NBA players your brethren? I'm talking about cats on your level, all-star caliber players, champions, potentially future Hall of Famer. I think you're a future Hall of Famer. Stuff like that. Do you see guys, your contemporaries, your brethren, do you feel like they have the kind of attitude that you have?
Absolutely. I've talked to them.
Okay.
It's just, the world we're in, like everybody doesn't feel as comfortable with speaking on it.
Okay.
But I know I'm not alone in thought. I've had several conversations with numerous superstars and people beyond that feel the same way and do things in their own way silently.
Yeah.
And I think that does have an impact and make a difference. But I just like to challenge them to continue to push that line, because the next generation is watching. And if we don't want the same results for the next 20 years, 50 years, the same corporations, we don't own anything, we don't have We don't understand our value. We constantly sell ourselves short. We depict it a certain way in the media, things that we've talked about and complained about for years. Then someone has to be the catalyst or a pioneer to have the courage enough to be like, you know what, let's do it. But I 100% believe in our athletes. It's actually my job to do so. And I've had conversations with them, and I know that I'm not alone in thought.
You challenge them. Do they challenge you?
I think so. I think they...
I'm talking about confronting you, like talking to you about things they think you need to do differently. Do any of them ever come to you and talk to you on that level?
Give me an example. Like, what would they say?
Yo, bro, you might need this money for this program. You might need this money. You might need additional resources for the projects that you're working on. Again, you might have to toe the line a little bit. Do they ever tell you that? Any of them ever tell you that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And when they tell you that, what do you say to them?
I listen.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I listen. I listen to anything and everything.
Right.
You know, you never know what you may learn from someone, even if you disagree. So even if somebody's giving you opposition, I never looked at it as negative, even if we don't agree on terms or something. Like, you always keep an open mind.
Right.
And this is what I also encourage to our athletes: keep an open mind and don't be afraid to think for yourself. Like, we're beyond just entertainers. We're also, you know, young CEOs, members of our community. We're philanthropists. We're leaders. That goes beyond just sports. And like, if you start to cultivate that mindset and think about that in the beginning, you know, who knows what you can be by the time you get to the end. The system is set up to control like the way we think. And like, you see our athletes, they just focus on basketball. Don't worry about nothing else. And then fast forward, 60% of our players, as they retire within the first 10 years, are losing majority of their wealth. So the system isn't working.
Right.
Like, hello? Like, it's not working.
Right.
Like, this is what's going on, but nobody wants to talk about it, and nobody wants to do anything. It's just happening behind closed doors. Dudes are struggling out here. Dudes you thought would be most well off are living check to check. And your financial advisors, your agents, all the people that surround you that's supposed to be helping you, you know what they do? They blame you. And I believe if you can't help me, you shouldn't be representing me. And that leads into that issue, and we can go into that. But I just think we just need to understand our value. We need to start earlier. I think that the key is pouring into the next generation. I think shoe industry has way too much of a hold on our sport. I think what we said earlier, Europe has closed the gap. I think we should focus a lot more on development. Kids should be focusing on the essence of the sport rather than, you know, the politics of, you know, picking a side,
Right.
Nike or Adidas. So that's my thoughts. People may disagree. That's fine. But this next phase that I feel like I'm entering and I'm going into, I don't do podcasts.
Right.
I don't speak because we live in a generation where they're going to pick apart everything you say.
Fair.
And it just introduces you to being attacked. Well, I'm at the point where, like, attack me. Like, it's I stand on what I stand for. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to stand for my community in this life and the next.
Is there an NBA player that you look up to more than others?
Currently or?
Currently. I can imagine anybody you looking up to anybody more than you looked up to Bill Russell. God rest his soul.
About, yeah.
Right. Can't imagine that.
No, what's the example?
Right. But a modern day, present day player.
Like any sport or just?
Any sport. Doesn't matter. But I'm also going to ask about the NBA too, because you're in it.
For sure. So one of my good friends is Vinny Jr., the soccer player. Okay. And he don't speak English as well. But this summer I got to go to Brazil to get to experience it with his culture and what it's like being him. You know, he plays in Madrid in Spain, and he has a lot of the same issues that go on in America around, you know, race and things like that. And him coming from Brazil, from the area that he comes from, and being able to represent not only his country, but South America as well. And I think he's doing it with class. And I've been able to just be a fly on the wall in his journey.
NBA player.
NBA player.
Yes.
I would say, I mean, Andre just retired, but that would be Andre was my mentor. Andre Iguodala.
Good brother.
I pulled a lot from Kobe Bryant as well. I know Kobe didn't do a lot of talking either.
Nope. But he did.
But
He acted a lot.
He acted a lot, and I followed a lot of his moves. A lot of the reason why I started this shoe company
That's right.
is because I read an article around 2019 or so that Kobe was doing the same thing. Before he passed, you know, I read that he had partnered with like the CEO of Uber or whatnot, and he wanted to give athletes better percentages and better deals and allow them to be able to invest into the company as it grows. And I thought this was unique. You know, I remember like seeing this, and they had a picture of the shoe as well. And I remember like, man, how cool would it be if I could be one of those athletes? And I never got to meet Kobe, you know, and he passed. Never got to shake his hand. Never got to build with him. But, you know, some of the stuff that's left behind, I like to walk in, because I think Kobe was one of the reasons I picked up a basketball in the first place.
Right. 741. That's the sneaker right here.
Yes, sir.
Want to make sure I'm accurate here. The number 7 represents spiritual awakening, wisdom, and understanding. Correct? Number 4 symbolizes hard work, stability, and practicality. Number 1 stands for new beginnings, creativity, and independence. Did I do my homework?
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Uh-huh.
It's worthy. I'm not throwing any shade on it whatsoever, but that's a lot. That's typical of you. When you look at this season that's about to unfold, knowing that you stand now as a reigning, defending NBA champion, what kind of impact do you believe that's going to have on your life moving forward compared to anything that you experienced prior to winning the championship?
I can feel it's definitely changes, you know, for sure. I think that, you know, being able to etch your name in stone amongst some of the greats, one for winning the championship here in the city of Boston, but also being able to win Eastern Conference Finals MVP and then follow it up with Finals MVP. Like that's,
right.
it hasn't been done, those two. But even to be in the midst of like some of the legends that came before is awesome. But the way my brain is designed, like I don't really think about it. Like I see stuff that's in front of me, and the way my brain works is you got a task in front of you, your job is to do your work. So.
But what task is in front of you? Because you didn't get selected to the All-NBA defensive team. A lot of people felt you deserved it. I felt you deserved it. I definitely had you as on an All-NBA team. I definitely had you third team All-NBA. I'm letting you know that. Right. That's what I was on the air saying. I put you on the damn team. I don't know why. I don't see 15 players in the NBA better than you. When you talk about how highly motivated you are, and is it just about the work, or is there something a little extra right now because of what you feel you were denied?
A little bit of both. And people who are close to me know, like, you know, I'm always looking for something. I'm always looking for a chip that just adds to the fire. I don't need much, but that gave me plenty. And I think that's what also helped my team be able to get to the championship and eventually win it. But going into this season, like last year is over. Like it's almost like, you know, after this ring ceremony that we have in a couple of days, like you gotta put it behind you. In a sense, nobody care. None of these young dudes is caring. They watch me, they watch us, and they want that for themselves. So I already know what's to come, and you gotta fight that comfort. So I'm ready to go. I'm ready to come out swinging.
What was it like for you watching Jason Tatum, Derek White, Drew Holiday come home with a gold medal on the team you felt you should have been on?
It was great. Honestly, it was awesome. Like I was super happy for those guys. It's a great honor to be able to represent your country. So I was elated. You know, I was having a great summer, and that's what I wanted to elaborate to the unnamed source is that like man, I had a blast. Like I was traveling the world, enjoying myself, watching those guys do their thing, and that only makes our team have more union. You know, those three guys being able to spend more time together, you know, get to play with some of the greatest players in the world, to be able to be around that union of KD, Steph Curry, and LeBron James, which was like in this era of basketball, is like one of the best things you could watch. Man, it was great. I watched every game. I supported with no bias. You know, it was fantastic. I knew what happened prior. You know, I didn't take it personal because I've accepted already what it is. So that allowed me to cheer my teammates on.
How would you describe your relationship with Jason Tatum?
Me and him have a championship level relationship. You know, I think that together we've been here for a long time, and we've had to listen to any and everything for the longest. That we couldn't play together, that things should be broken up, we wasn't leaders, and we were close every single year, like right there, every single year. And we viewed it as like just stay the course, while everybody else viewed it as blow it up. And we got the receipts, but the way
6 conference finals appearances for you, 5 conference finals appearances for him, 2 NBA finals appearances for you both, and now a championship.
absolutely. I mean, before, I mean that says in itself. But you know, that wasn't the rhetoric. You know, going into the playoffs this year, that wasn't the rhetoric going into the season last year. But obviously, that rhetoric has changed. But one thing about it is going to change again. There's going to be some point again if it's not working or whatever is not. We win or lose a couple games in a row, it'll be back. The commentators, everything will be back, and that's just the normal cycle of everything. And you got to embrace that as well. Yeah. So I understand how things work, and Jason, we've been able to build a bond. We've been able to create an environment that we wanted to see, and we've been able to grow together as human beings, as individuals. And when you win a championship, man, that's special.
So considering that bond, and I just got a few more questions before I let you go. Considering that bond, I am appreciative of the greatness of Steve Kerr and how he's a 4-time champion, won 6 NBA finals. All his coaching credentials are not to be questioned. But I looked at that man bench Jason Tatum for 2 games. I saw one game where he reportedly walked up to Jason Tatum before tip-off and told him, I'm going to have a hard time finding minutes for you. I don't understand. Maybe it's just me. Yes, maybe it's just me. Somebody that plays in the league, that plays with this man as a teammate all of these years, what was that like? And could you fathom any explanation how you, as any coach, can look at a guy like Jason Tatum and say, beforehand, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find minutes for you in a 40-minute contest?
No, for sure. I'm biased when answering this, by the way, totally.
Sure.
But Jason, I think he handled it extremely well. Like you know, that just says a lot about JT's character. But I know he was pissed. No, for sure. I remember texting him and being like, you know, I'm mad for you. Like I know what
I was
I
mad
get it.
for him.
Like JT, I know how he carries himself and how, you know what I mean? So I know like that feeling. But I thought he handled it well. I thought he handled it with class, if anything. I know how.
How would you have handled it?
I would have handled it probably the same way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? No different. I think that's just, you know, our character kind of exudes outwardly who we are inwardly. And JT, even though I know he probably felt that internally and that feeling, like he was able to control his emotions and still handle business, and he'll add to winning and be a part of a great group that won his 2nd gold medal. And now it's an afterthought.
The brother's a first-team All-NBA over the last 3 years. He just finished averaging nearly 27 points per game, and even you, with your greatness, plays the role of a number 2 offensive option a lot of times because obviously he's the number 1 option in most situations. What can we expect from him this year based off of what he experienced this past summer?
First, I would say, I hate the number one, number two
Okay.
option
Okay.
thing. I think this game is played at any given point. I'm the number one, depending on the night, or he's the number one depending on it. Just
Okay.
depending on how the defense is scheming,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how teams go about.
Well, what I would say in response to that is
Yeah.
that is totally accurate. We're you and Jason Tatum. But most teams, there's a clear number
Okay.
one and a number two option.
Okay,
But that
gotcha.
doesn't exist on Boston because of you.
Gotcha.
Because you and Jason Tatum right there. That's what I would say.
Yeah, but I think it's a team game, man. I think our organization, our coaches, and our teammates allow us to be who we are, and I think Joe does a great job of putting us in our spot. So
Joe Mazzulla's done a hell of a job.
yeah, man, it's been great to be a part of it. Like I've got to witness a lot of JT's growth. He's got to witness my growth, and there's nothing wrong with being a part of a team.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, trying to do something bigger than yourself and playing a role in that. I've never had an issue with that.
Last couple of questions. What can we expect from the Boston Celtics this year? Y'all are the reigning defending NBA champions. There's a bullseye on your back. Everybody knows it. Pretty much team remained intact. Brad Stevens, exceptional. He's kept everybody together. Porzingis, his health is questionable. Obviously, he's not going to start off the season. Your thoughts about what people can expect from the Boston Celtics for this upcoming season?
What people can expect us to play hard. I think we should set the tone on defense. That's non-negotiable. But just expect it to be fun, be exciting, be fun to watch. Us defend what we just received, and it's going to be a journey. Expect a journey. That's what I would say. Expect highs, expect lows. At the end of the day, we know what we want the result to be. We know what it looks like now. So expect the journey. It's going to be highs, it's going to be lows, it's going to be ups, it's going to be downs. But we're going to try to stay solid through this whole thing.
Worried about the Knicks at all? Worried about the Knicks? Huh? I'm just asking.
I wouldn't use the word worried. But the Knicks have a good team. I think, Cat brings a level of excitement to them, dynamic offensively, shooting the ball, as well as, Mikal Bridges and stuff like that. So the Knicks, I think will be a team to watch this year.
Philadelphia 76ers, if Embiid and Paul George are healthy?
If they're healthy?
Yes, if they're healthy.
Yeah, I expect the same thing. Like, man, you got to be – it's no easy opponent in this whole league. I think the league is going to be a lot stronger from top to bottom on both sides this year. So everybody got to come to bring it, man. Philadelphia is going to be good. New York, they're going to be good. Those teams are priming themselves. So it's going to be some good basketball for viewership.
Last question is about you. As a champion, you got Hall of Famers like Isaiah Thomas, incredibly supportive of you. Magic Johnson, incredible admiration for you, along with Michael Jordan and others. Every Hall of Famer that I've ever spoken to have had nothing but the greatest things to say about you. As you embark upon this journey of trying to capture another NBA championship this year, you're more than just a champion now because of all the things that you're aiming to do and all the things that you've been doing. What is your hope as you look forward, thinking about the things that you are planning on accomplishing, not just as a basketball player, but as a man? How do you want the world to view Jaylen Brown?
I'm going to answer that, but I want you to answer it too.
Okay.
But hopefully through my platform, through sports as a way of bringing people together, hopefully through my work on the court and off, we'll be able to, create a shift in, how athletes view themselves, how we look at the sport, how we go about deals, and hopefully has a positive impact on our society. And I pull from, people such as Bill Russell, Muhammad Ali, who have inspired me in this journey. But hopefully 10, 20 years from now, how we look at the daily athlete and how they go about conducting themselves through business, through community, through family is in a different place. You know, I don't want to hear the notion is that, forget about this, forget about that. All you need to focus on is this. No, you a young man, CEO, philanthropist, man of your community, and your talent and your influence goes beyond. And the people that's telling you that this is the only thing you should be working on, the only thing you should be paying attention to, you need to be paying attention to them, because we've seen how that story goes. But for me, it's all about the next gen. It's pouring in. It's people who have died, put their lives on the line for me to be able to sit here and be able to play basketball for a living. And for their sacrifice, we can never repay. So the least I could do is go out there and play some basketball and speak to you after the game about whatever it is that needs to be talked about, because people have done more in order for us to even be able to get here. And that's the energy that it's going to take to continue to push so we can get to where we're going.
Yeah. You wanted me to answer the question.
Yes, sir.
So here's how I would hope that you're looked at.
No. For you.
In terms of what?
In terms of the same question that you asked me, how do you want to be viewed?
How do I want to be viewed? Oh, okay.
And what is that it look like for you?
Well, the first order of business is I'm socially conscientious at heart. I'm an activist at heart. Foolish or not, I have no fear in addressing the issues that need to be addressed. But I also want to be seen as somebody who gets it and understands what the greater good is, which is why I asked you some of the questions that I asked you earlier. If I'm in a position where there are tens of millions of people that I can help in whatever way that I can, I would like to think that I'm somebody who takes that into consideration with everything that I do, everything that I say, how I say it, and who I'm communicating with. You are a professional basketball player who is just brilliant beyond in so many other ways that you can venture out and diversify your portfolio and how you're looked upon and who you are. I don't view myself as being that gifted, although I know I'm not dumb. But in the same breath, because of the platform that I have and the ability that I have to disseminate a message to the masses, I'm very mindful and cognizant in trying to avoid sending people down dead-end roads. You brought up Kobe Bryant and the impact that he had on you. Well, he also had an impact on me. Kobe and I were pretty tight. People didn't realize that, but we were. And he talked to me about a lot of things. And in 2006, he came on my show, quite frankly, that time. And I was talking to him about hosting a show. I was hosting the show, and I said, hey, they calling me like, they saying I got the potential to be the next Oprah. And he said, quote, F Oprah, Harpo. She owns her stuff. You insult her by referring to her as just Oprah. She's Harpo. She owns her shit. He said, when you start thinking like that, come talk to me. You're still thinking about yourself as a talent. You're more than that, Stephen A. And from that point forward, every time he'd see me, he'd take a little dig at me to remind me of what my mission was supposed to be. He and I were together 3 weeks before he passed away. We were planning on producing some content for ESPN together. And obviously what happened, and it broke all of our hearts. But I answer your question in saying I'm consistently mindful of the greater good. I know you are a person who is as well, but you stand on yours because of the level of adversity and the shrapnel that's thrown in your way, and you're not budging. And what I'm saying to you is never compromise. You would never compromise yourself. I'm not going to compromise myself. I wouldn't encourage anybody to do that. But always understand that there's a tilt or a sway or a swing that's required here or there where it looks like you're taking a step back so you can leapfrog 5 steps forward, not on behalf of yourself, but the greater good that impacts the masses. That's how I want to be viewed when all is said and done, as that dude whose mind, whose heart and soul was in the right place, and I cared more about the big picture than about me. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Before we get out of here, I got some gifts for you and
Yes.
the team.
Thank you, man.
Can Brother O, can you bring me I got 2 things for you.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
One, I got you your very own.
Yes.
State your source.
I'm aware. I'm aware one day.
Yeah, very own.
I'm aware.
State
I'm
your
aware, bro.
source.
I'm aware.
Yes, sir. That's for you.
I'm aware
We
one
got
day.
something for
As a
the
matter of
team.
fact, I'm gonna come to a Celtics game wearing it.
Yes,
I'm gonna do that for you. Yes, absolutely.
And then I got you these happy devices. I'm always conscious about what I put into my body.
Okay.
It's this new company that, uses frequency technology
Okay.
so that, to help you sleep, to help you focus,
Wow.
to help you relax, all
Okay.
these different type of things. You don't have to take all these pills. You can try this device and it gives you like a 20% or so replacement. So
Okay.
if you want to sleep 20% better, focus 20% better,
Y'all
or
see.
recover, and try that. I know you be under a lot of people be stressing you out and you be yelling and screaming. I be seeing the veins popping out. So, throw one of those on one time. It can help you relax, calm down, and you can keep it moving. But I appreciate you.
Keep doing your thing, baby.
Yes, sir.
Proud
Yes,
of you,
sir.
my man. Yes, sir. Keep doing your thing. The one and only Jaylen Brown for the Boston Celtics. You heard what he had to say. He had a lot to say. He even interviewed me a little bit. I didn't expect that, but I'm good with it. For Jaylen Brown, this is Stephen A. Smith. Hope y'all enjoyed this special edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. I'll see y'all in a couple of days. Until then, peace and love, everybody. Stephen A. signing off.